Hello, word nerds, and welcome to another episode of the Dictionary. My name is Spencer, and this is episode F50. Wow, how did we do this? If you can't tell, I don't know, maybe you can or cannot. If you're looking at the video, things are a little bit different. Um, I was talking to somebody, and they said the reason my webcam is making everything blurry is because I had low light. So basically, this is a little bit of a photography thing. When you got low light, it has to lengthen the shutter. So basically, the sensor is open for a longer amount of time to let in more light, and so that's why you get all these blurry things. And so my mouth was looking weird and my hands were like super blurry, and I recorded in a different way and it had like a really low frame rate, and I was like, what's up with that? And so they said it's about the light. So it's not the most ideal situation. I set my camera back to auto and I have a lot more light on me. I turned the overhead lights on. I turned that light on a lot brighter. It used to be at 1%. Now it's at 20%. These two side lights I boosted. So I think it's okay. I think it's fine. It's, got a little bit of a hot spot back there, but whatever. Hey, this is most people are watching this, listening to this just audio, so they don't care about the visuals whatsoever, and that's okay. So I just wanted to say that I'm gonna do a little experimentation. I may upgrade my camera. We'll see. We'll see. It would be 4K instead of 1080. Well, so you know what? I got. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Hey, let's talk about these words. Hey, the first word in this episode is fecund. Fecund or fecund, if you want to say the long E sound, fecund. It's just a fun word to say. That's all I gotta say. It is spelled Fecund, adjective from the 15th century. I am realizing, though, that with all this extra light, it's a little bit easier to read the book, which is pretty helpful, I gotta say. Okay, fecund. Number one, fruitful in offspring or vegetation, and the synonym is prolific. This probably plant is creating so many new plants. So a lot of them, they're prolific. They're just popping up all over the place. All these little plants and weeds and the plant is fecund. Number two, intellectually productive or inventive to a marked degree. I think you could say marked degree. I feel like most people would say marked for some reason. As in a fecund imagination. So your brain, your mind, your thinking, your imagination is like always coming up with stuff to a marked degree. It's you can mark it on a chart. It's so high. Your imagination is so much. I don't know if I have a fecund imagination. They're like in the moment, I see people who are able to just come up with stuff off the top of their head super quickly and clever, witty, funny, and I don't feel like I'm very good at that. I can say a lot of stuff, but it's gonna not be very clever. But then at the same time, my brain just starts making up like ideas for movies. Sometimes my wife and I come up with like comedy sketches, and sometimes this stuff just pops in my head and I can't help it. So I guess that could be a fecund imagination, but I don't know what it is exactly. But I don't know. I must be fecund at something. Fecund at growing hair. Pretty good at that. A synonym for this word is fertile or fertile. Fecundity, that is a noun. And so let's look at the etymology. Where does this come from? It is a word that I've heard before, didn't know what it meant. I don't think it's a word that gets used very much. This is from the Latin fecundus and does not say what that means. It just says there's more at the word feminine, and we know that, if we're being genderized about this, feminine, the females are the ones who create life. They're fertile. the literally growing things inside of their body. So let's look up Latin word fecundus, because I don't know what it means. The Latin word fecundus is an adjective that means fruitful, fertile, productive. Yep, I figured it was something like that. I just didn't know exactly. So now I'm so glad that I have that information. And you do too. We got another word that might be related. What's the sound effect that I'm going to make? Ba-boom, ba-boom. Sure. Didn't mean for it to sound so much like a heart, but that's okay. We have now fecundate. Fecundate or fecundate. This is a transitive verb from circa 1631. Number one, to make fecund. So you are making, maybe you're making the plants prolific, making them able to create more versions of themselves, be fruitful. I don't know how to do that. Maybe the sun, the dirt, the water, the soil is a better word for dirt. Maybe those are making these plants fecund. Number two, the synonym is impregnate. So this is the action of making something pregnant. It's obvious. I see the connection, but I think the first one makes more sense. You are making it fecund. You are making it fertile. And then I guess it's also just like, well, we can also use it for just impregnating a thing, a person, an animal. Maybe when they're impregnating the cows to force them to have babies, to have them make more milk. Maybe they say they're fecundating the cows. I don't know. Fecundation, that is a noun. And of course, it's same etymology. Same etymology. Fecund. I will try to remember this. I don't think this is the word that I'm going to be coming across very often at all, but I'll try to remember. Boom, boom, boom. We are now in the FED section, which actually is not very long. It goes into the next episode. We have now FED, F-E-D, abbreviation for either federal or federation. Just those two words. You can't abbreviate anything else down to FED. No. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Now we have FED again with a capital F, noun from 1916. Number one is often not capitalized. Very important to know that information. This is a federal agent, officer, or official, and it is usually used in plural. So you'd say the feds. When I hear people say this, first of all, I hear it in movies and TV shows, and they are usually talking about the FBI. They are the feds. Now, it's a federal agent, officer, official. Clearly, there are a lot of people who could be called a fed, but for some reason, it's usually talking about the FBI. Which, are we going to see that? I guess if FBI would have been a while ago, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I don't even remember if we had that. Let's go back and look because now I am curious. Yes, it would have been, where's the break? Here we go. Yes, we had FBI, but I don't think Federal Bureau of Investigation is even in here. It's not. Okay, but FBI is. That makes sense. Okay, back to Fed. Number 2A, the synonym is Federal Reserve Board. And to B, the synonym is Federal Reserve System. So they are two separate things, I guess, and they're both going to be in the next episode. And they can both be abbreviated to just Fed, the Fed. They're dealing with the money, I think. The Federal Reserve System and Board, they're talking about the money because sometimes you'll hear them be, the Fed announced today that they are going to raise the interest rate up to 37%. Wow, that was quite a jump. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, it's short for federal. Duh, that's the etymology. Boom, 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 boom. Next is fidei. Fidei. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Fedaye. Noun from 1955. The plural is fidein with an N at the end, literally just adding an N. Fidein. This is a member of the mouth stopped working. A member of an Arab commando group operating especially against Israel, and this is usually used in plural, fedayin. I was just listening to a podcast this morning, and they were talking about, of course, it's like a daily struggle, talking about the whole situation going on over there. This episode is airing on December 6th. I am recording on October 18th, 2024. And just, I think, 2 days ago, they say that they killed the leader of Hamas. And they're now wondering what's going to happen to that situation. So, does that mean that the people who are either part of Hamas or one of these other countries in that area, they're commandos? Are they called the Fedayin? Maybe it's a very, very specific group, though. I'm not sure. This word, though, is, it is, of course, an Arabic word. Not sure how to pronounce it. Fidai, spelled very differently than the English. It literally is one who sacrifices himself. Oh, you're just calling it out right there. You are sacrificing yourself to go fight other people because of the thing that you think is right. And then we're just going to leave it at that. The Fedai. Okay. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Next is federal. Now, this is a big one. This is a big topic with a whole lot of definitions. And I'm not smart enough to really dig too deep into the federal stuff, but we'll see what happens. This is an adjective from 1660. Number 1 is archaic, and it means of or relating to a compact or treaty. So if like two countries are getting together and they're like, we've not been treating each other very well. We think that we should make a treaty. Well, let's make a compact to say that we're going to treat each other nicer. Okay, that's great. And so then just relating to that treaty, that action of being nicer to each other, that was called federal back in the day. And we will get into the etymology later. 2A. Formed by a compact between political units that surrender their individual sovereignty to a central authority, but retain limited residuary powers of government. Okay. We've got to break this down a little bit. Formed by a compact between political units that surrender their individual sovereignty. So it's like, so individually as a group in this specific area, you don't get to be sovereign anymore. You don't get to be your own place. You are now part of this other place. Yes, they're giving up their sovereignty, their individualism to this central authority, this other government that has power. But they do retain some limited residuary powers of government. I think of the states in the United States of America, which don't feel very united, that's sort of an example of this one, I think. There's a compact between the political units. All the political units of all these 50 states have gotten together and says, yes, we are going to give up some of our power to the government, the country's government, but we still get to make some decisions for ourselves. And there are people who have lots of opinions about this whole thing. Okay, so that was 2A. Now we got 2B. Of or constituting a form of government in which power is distributed between a central authority and a number of constituent territorial units. This seems very similar. Constituting a form of government in which power is distributed between a central... I don't know if the United States are more similar to this 2B definition or 2A. I'm not entirely sure. They seemed very similar, like I said. But there are countries that have states, not the same as America does, but they have states, or they have counties. Like in Ireland, they're known for all their counties, and so yeah, I don't know. We just gotta keep on moving on. 2C. This one is probably going to be similar again. Of or relating to the central government of a federation as distinguished from the governments of the constituent units. Okay. So this is distinguishing the federal government is the central location that manages everything, separate from the individual ones. It's a government thing. Federal, it's a government thing. And it's all based on this compact. I'm going to get more into the etymology later. I looked ahead. Sorry about that. Okay, 3. In number 3, this is capitalized. This is advocating or friendly to the principle of a federal government with strong centralized powers, especially of or relating to the American Federalists. And I think we're going to see Federalist, yes, at the end of this episode. So let's backtrack a little bit. What are these Federalists are thinking? They are advocating for the principle of a federal government with strong centralized powers. So they want more government. They said, yes, please, we want this group of people to make a lot of decisions for us. And this is, the basic example I always come back to is money for road repair. Something as simple as that. Somebody else is going to take care of that for you. Giving money to all these different groups in the country, the education, the science, the military, all this stuff. And the American Federalists, I guess, are saying, yes, we want you to have all the power. I guess? Okay. I get real confused. This has been one of those places that I have lacked in my whole life, is understanding what all these different political terms are, and socialism, communism, what are the other ones that I can't think of now? Capitalism, Marxism. There's one. Why can't I think of it in the top of my head? Libertarian. I never fully understood the differences or fully learned the differences, or if I did, I forgot them all. I cannot keep that stuff straight in my head. And so, I view this American Federalist as sort of one of those things. They have very specific views on how government and countries and federal things should run. Okay, all right. Number 4 is often capitalized. This is of relating to or loyal to the federal government or the Union armies of the U.S. in the American Civil War. Way back then in the 1800s was when the American Civil War happened. So if you were being described as federal, often capitalized in this context, you would be of or relating or loyal to the Union, specifically the Union. Now, why is the brain not working? Which one was the Union? And if I could think of the other side, the Union Army. I want to say that was the North, but why? Maybe not. The Union, yes, the Union was the North. And then what was the Confederates, of course. I knew it started with a C. So the Confederate Army was in the South, and they were fighting to be their own country, so they could, because they were like, we want slavery and stuff like that. And the North was like, that's not cool. Let's stay together. And so we don't have slaves. I mean, it was way more complicated than that, but that was a big part of it, I'm pretty sure. So if you were a federal something, a federal person, then you were supporting the Union during the American Civil War. Number 5 is capitalized, and this is being or belonging to a style of architecture and decoration current in the U.S. following the American Revolution. Now, this American Revolution goes back even further than the Civil War, back to the 1700s, the late 1700s. And this is when we were fighting against the British people to say we don't want to be a part of the British anymore, and we want to be separate. And we won that fight. Oh, we fought so hard for that fight, and we said, screw your tea. We want to be free. Ha ha. Okay, so, but this is decoration and architecture. This federal style of decoration and architecture, following the American Revolution, where they now that we are free, although they probably still spoke with a British accent, now that we are free, we must create a new style of architecture and decoration, so we can visually see that we are free, that we are different than those silly British people. We want to have our own style. So you probably see this in the Northeast mostly. It's probably still there. Okay, federally is an adverb. Something that is done in a federal way is federally. Okay, let's look at the etymology. This is from the Latin foedus, F-O-E-D-U-S, foedus. I don't know how that would have been said in Latin, but that means compact or league. It is akin to the Latin federe, which means to trust. Ooh, that is important. And there's more at the word bide. So when you make a compact, you are agreeing, you are trusting each other. And that is all what this word is based on, I guess. Great. All right, I don't know if I have much else to say, because let's just get on to the next word. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Federal, with definitely a capital F. This is a noun from 1861. 1861. Well, let's look back. The adjective was 1660. The noun is 200 years later. Number 1, a supporter of the U.S. government in the Civil War, especially a soldier in the federal armies. Yep, so similar. Now, the previous one was the adjective. You were describing somebody as being a supporter of the Union in the American Civil War. And then this one is the noun, the soldiers, the people. They're federals because they supported the U.S. government, the Union, during the Civil War. What would you have called the other people? Confederates? I don't even remember what the etymology of that word is. They're very similar. Wait a minute, we gotta go back. Is con mean like without? You're like it's negating the whole word? This is interesting. I don't remember if we talked about this or if this information was even in there, but I want to go back. There's another way that I could do this, but I'm doing this the harder way because I can. All right, let's look. There's confederacy, confederal, confederate. Where's the etymology for this? Is there any out? Here we go. Confederate, confedera. To unite by a league. Well, interesting. It's all about uniting by a league. Interesting. Com plus foeder, which is, yeah, I mean, that's very similar to federal. It's like, it's interesting. It's interesting. And maybe I even said this before, that uniting by a league, it sounds like they want to be united even more than the federal people. But they were the ones who wanted to leave. So your name is stupid. Okay. Number 2 for federal, capital F noun. It's the number 1 definition for fed, which is the federal agent. Call them federal. Usually used in plural, the federals. But nobody ever says that. They just say the feds. Okay, federal, basically the adjective is just all about the government. That's a big part of this, is about the government. The federal government. We've got the state government, and we got the federal government here in the United States. The United States. And yeah, it's just it's the central authority government. Okay, that's great. We talked plenty about that. Boom, 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 boom. Federal case, noun from 1955. The synonym is big deal. Something seems silly here. Okay, the example is don't make a federal case out of it. This is a very strange one to be in the dictionary, I think. Big deal. Was big deal even in the dictionary? Tell me. Ooh, I think I went right to it. Almost. Big deal? Is that a... I mean, yeah, it is. Something of special importance. Don't make a federal case out of this. It's no big deal. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Seems odd that it wouldn't be like a government court case or something. I don't know. Boom, boom, boom. Federal court, noun from 1789. The federal case is in the federal court because you're making a whole big deal out of it. This is a court established by a federal government, especially one established under the Constitution and laws of the U.S. Yes, that's of course the federal court is using the laws of the federal government, which was all based on the Constitution. Let's see. Anything else to say about federal court? The Supreme Court. That would be a federal court. The Supreme Court of the United States. That's a federal court. I guess there's other ones too. I don't know. Can you go to federal court to fight your parking ticket? No, you gotta go to the probably the county court. Boom, 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 boom. Federal district. 2 words, noun from circa 1934. A district set apart as the seat of the central government of a federation. It's a district set apart as the seat of the central government. I don't know. I mean, is it so like would Washington, D.C. be the federal district? Is this, I don't fully understand districts and things. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Federal District Court. 3 words, noun from 1948. A district trial court of law, and equity that hears cases under federal jurisdiction. How this is exactly different from federal court, I'm not sure. There's clearly a difference between federal and federal district, and I don't really understand the district. A district set apart as the seat of the central government of a federation. I don't know. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Federalese. Federalese, noun from 1944. The synonym is bureaucrates. So bureaucrats, they speak bureaucrates. And basically, I mean, this is like the exact opposite of how my brain works and how I talk. They're using all of that bureaucrat, legal, government jargon to talk about things, and I can't speak that language. You don't speak my language when you speak federalese. I guess bureaucrates is used more than federalese, but it's the same idea. Boom. Federal funds. Noun from 1950. Federal Reserve funds lent overnight by one Federal Reserve Bank to another. Okay. Government bank says, I need some money. Can you please send me some money? Please, I need some money. And another Federal Reserve Bank is like, yes, I will send you some federal funds. Ba-bum-ba-bum. Federalism. Okay, this is going to be interesting. It is a noun from 1787. The last place we saw the American Federalists, which were the ones who wanted more government, I think. So, 1A is often capitalized for federalism. This is the distribution of power in an organization as a government between a central authority and the constituent units. And it says compared to centralism, which I vaguely remember reading that one. So the distribution of power in an organization, in a government, between a central authority and the constituent. So this is, I guess it's just the idea of, if we're using the United States as an example, this is the idea of the government giving some level of power to all of the states. That's federalism, opposed to centralism, which I guess is the idea where the government keeps all the power and doesn't give the smaller areas any power or as much power as they would in federalism. Okay, interesting. So 1B is support or advocacy of this principle. Support for federalism. You're advocating for this principle. As long as I have these, as long as I understand federalism and centralism correctly, I guess I would be a supporter of federalism. Because all the little areas, like the states, they have their unique traits and intricacies, and that can't always be managed by the central government because it's got to be different for everybody. When you got a country like the United States that has it's like 330 million people divided up over these 50 states, they all got different wants and needs and stuff. And so I think to some level you definitely need some federalism. At the same time, I think there are certain things that should be across the board. All right, federalism. Now we have number 2, which is capitalized, and it is federalist principles. Federalist principles are federalism. And what are those federalist principles? Maybe this next word is going to tell us. It's the last word, federalist. Federalist. Noun from 1774. Interesting. Right before we were considered free when we signed the Declaration of Independence, 1776-ish. I don't know. I think that year seems to be, sometimes I see other numbers. Now, number 1 for federalist is an advocate of federalism, as 1A, which is often capitalized, an advocate of a federal union between the American colonies after the Revolution and of the adoption of the U.S. Constitution. So, this is way back then in the 1770s. Clearly, they were advocating for this federal government, basically, to join all of the colonies together to have one central government. I think that's basically what they're saying. After the Revolution and the adoption of the Constitution, they were like, yes, this is good for everybody, and we are federalists doing some federalism. Now, we also have 1B, which is often capitalized. The synonym is World Federalist. We have to wait a very long time to learn about that, but maybe we can just do a quick little look. I mean, I would Federalist, right? World Federalist. I gotta delete this. Is this advocating for a world government? Maybe? The World Federalist here. Let's look at this. Political ideology advocating a democratic federal world government. Yep. A world federation would have authority on issues of global reach, while the members of a federation would retain authority, blah, blah, blah. I do think that we are getting to a point, we're getting closer to a point where we might need this. Especially when the aliens come down, I think we're going to need a world government so we can all do the same thing. Yeah, I mean, we are all connected in so many more ways than we can even imagine. And if we were all cool enough to just get together and be like, we are all part of this earth, we need to work together to reverse climate change, that's just the first thing right off the bat, and also like not have so many wars. Like, okay, it's not me against you. We are all in this together. A cliche phrase for good reason, that maybe we need a world government. So there aren't autocrats and people who want to control people and take land from other countries and all this stupid bullshit. Okay, where are we? Now, number 2 is capitalized for federalist, a member of a major political party in the early years of the U.S., favoring a strong, centralized national government. Yep, we've been seeing the same thing. That's all this word is about. It's about that central authority government. All right, anything else to say? Oh, federalist is an adjective often capitalized, and now I'm going to pick a word of the episode. Word of the episode. Today we had fecund, fecundate, fed, fedai, federal case, federal court, federal district court, federalese, federal funds, federalism, and federalist. What to pick here? I think maybe just because it's a little bit different than most of the words in this episode, but also because of what it means, I'm going to pick the first word, fecund. Fertile, prolific, growing, making new life. I don't know. It seems like an interesting thing, and so fecund. Fecund. This podcast is really fecund because it's prolific, making lots of episodes every day. Hey. At the time of recording, this podcast has, I've posted or scheduled to post over 1,800 episodes, and we will cross 2,000. I believe, yes, we will cross 2,000 before the F's are done. What an amazing feat. Very prolific. Fecund. I'm making lots of babies, lots of episode babies. All right, now let's talk about movies. The best part of the show. I'm just talking about 2 at a time to get caught up. Maybe that's too fast. I don't know. Still on a plane. I watched Stunt Women. There's more to the title. I can't remember, but the main word is Stunt Women. And it was just a documentary about stunt women in the TV and movie business. And it was fascinating. And I learned so much, which I have probably forgotten, but it's good to learn something even in the moment. Talking about the woman who was the stunt woman in Wonder Woman. And, I mean, it goes back. It gives the history of women in the industry. And clearly, we know they were not treated well. And, yeah, so super fascinating. If you can find it somewhere, I think it came out in 2020. And, of course, they interview all the new young people in the business. And, yeah. Just highly recommend that documentary. And then, because it was near the end of my flight and I didn't know what else to watch, I rewatched for probably the 5th time, I don't know, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And oh boy, that's just a great movie. It's a great movie. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for checking out this show. Please do the subscribing and the liking and the sharing and the commenting and all of those things. I love it when those buttons get clicked. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye.